And good morning. It is a very special edition of Glenn Clark Radio. It is our annual college basketball preview edition of the program. I'm Glenn. Ryan Schell is here today, and also our friend, college sports guru, Mr. Discourse himself, Patrick Stevens, in studio with us this morning. It's good to see you, sir. It's that time of year again.
It is.
We're going to be doing this regularly. Not this specifically. We'll do this once.
It's too early for me.
Yeah, and then maybe again in the cross season, we'll do it again. So scheduled to be joined this morning by all of the area's college basketball coaches. Well, not all of the area's college basketball coaches, but a lot of the area's college basketball coaches. Ryan, if you don't want to mind, start fading that out, I appreciate it. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, Tavaras Hardy, who apparently was stuck in traffic this morning, but I get it. He's going to join us from Loyola. Also, Jim Ferry from UMBC will check in with us. We'll have a visit with Pat Skerry from Towson, as well as Kevin Broadus from Morgan State, and also Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's. And we'll see, maybe another coach or two will be popping up throughout the course of the morning. Give me, Patrick, your headlines for this year's preview show, the biggest storylines for the area college basketball teams.
Well, I think one team that I don't know how much we'll get into them, but Coppin State has a new coach in Larry Stewart, a guy that was a star at Coppin State in the late 80s and early 90s.
By the way, they were practicing this morning. I believe Larry Stewart's going to join me tomorrow on Glenn Clark Radio.
So I think that's certainly one thing that stands out. You look at a team like we'll go to the Patriot League for a moment. You look at a team like Navy, lost a lot from last year, but it's in a league where there's 5 new coaches and there's a lot of flux and what have you. And so it'll be curious to see exactly what Ed DeChellis is able to get out of a group where they've got Austin Inge and Austin Benini back, but there's a lot of question marks on that team. Staying in the Patriot League with Loyola, a team that has a little bit of a head start thanks to that overseas trip back in August, and Jim Ferry back for another year. And I think that when you look at Loyola, like the pieces are there for them to be able to make a push into the top half of the Patriot League. Towson, a lot of question marks, but they do still have Charles Thompson. I think it's a manageable situation in the CAA. I don't know if they're going to be quite good enough to punch through with an NCAA tournament berth, but there's still been enough reloading there, and maybe certainly some questions in place as to how high they can go in the CAA. But certainly should be a solid team at Towson this year. UMBC just is it's almost a complete makeover there.
Yeah.
Looking for a lot of there's going to be a lot of positionless basketball, I suspect, with the Retrievers this season. Not a lot back from a team that I think won 18 games last year. And then Mount St. Mary's year 2 in the Metro Atlantic. I thought they played better in the second half of league play last year. And there's still enough pieces there. There's not a Jalen Benjamin anymore, but there's enough pieces there that I think that they have a chance to maybe nose themselves up into about the middle of that MAC pack, maybe even into the top half of the league.
So that's what we're going to be getting into this morning, is all those various area teams and looking ahead to the start of their seasons. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Patrick, while we have a minute here, just because today is the college basketball preview, obviously a huge story in college basketball this week is the passing of Bobby Knight, and a very complicated figure, to say the least. Significantly impactful on the sport in many, many positive ways. A lot of negatives as well, as we have our first guest joining us in studio. Coach, why don't you come over? And you know what? I'll actually let him chime in on this, because I know he spent some time in the Big Ten, is joining us here in studio. First on the hot seat this morning here on the College Basketball Preview Show is the tallest by far. We had this is not a joke, Patrick. When we set up the cameras yesterday, we said, well, we will have one issue. One particular coach that's coming in significantly taller than the others. That is, of course, Loyola coach Tavaras Hardy, who is in studio with us this morning. Coach, it's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
No, thanks for having me. you would think by now is used to Baltimore traffic, but still not there yet.
Chicago isn't great, right?
No, Chicago, D.C., Atlanta, none of my 4 spots have been great.
Coach, we were just about to lead into a conversation about Bobby Knight, and you, of course, played in the Big Ten,
Yep.
and I'm assuming you went up against Bobby
Yep.
Knight during your time playing at Northwestern. Your reflections, what it was like going up against him as an opponent, and the impact that he had on the sport.
I mean, it's obviously Coach Knight was a legend. I grew up in the Midwest, and so knew all about Big Ten basketball, and he was the godfather. He was the one that really made the Big Ten a basketball powerhouse with those 80s Indiana team. Was recruited by Indiana. Didn't talk to him much, though. He didn't talk much to recruits. He made the decisions, but was talking to Mike Davis a lot at the time and was considering them as well as a couple other Big Ten schools before I made my decision. And I'll say my freshman year, we played against them the very first time. And close game. I think we ended up losing in overtime at home. And our students started a chant, "Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?" And he took offense to it. He thought they were.
I'm stunned.
Yeah, he thought they were talking about one of his kids. And so at the end of the game, he and Kevin O'Neill, our head coach, who was a little bit nutty as well, get into a scuffle. My freshman year, first time going against Indiana.
Man, you got the whole experience.
Yeah. And so Dane Fife and I, we're sitting there, we're talking because we knew each other from high school, and we're sitting there, talking after the game. We look up and we see our coaches scuffling at the scorer's table. But Coach Knight, he's a legend. Got a chance to play against him my first 2 years before he moved on from Indiana. But he's awesome man. Everybody I know that went there and played for him really appreciates what he did for him.
Before we get to your team, can I ask, is there a coach over the years that you would have been most likely to have gotten into a scuffle with? Is there anybody that, man, we might have ended up chatting after the game a little bit?
No. I love the league. Love the coaches that get a chance to coach against. And like you said, I got a size advantage on most of them. So, I don't want to intimidate anybody. I don't want to have that perception of me. But no, it's sometimes you get in a heated moment conversation, but it's very rare.
All right, let's get into your team. Why don't we do that? We'll get into the Greyhounds. And I'll start. Patrick informed me before the show it's not quite as much front court depth as I thought. I thought you had both Illiches back for this season, but still Fowray, DK, and one of the Illiches. I would think that starts where your strength is, that there's pretty good – you got to feel pretty good about your front court.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are experienced, legit size. I was telling the team we go down to play Florida next week. In the backcourt we're small, smaller than them, but in the front court we're similar size. Different type players, but those guys got to be what I call a dominant front court. Still working towards it. Still working towards getting their confidence up in that role. Milos just coming back off of basically a year and a half of being off. So getting him back confident. The opportunity to play the two of the three together at all times. We ended the season playing Golden and Alonzo together a lot. And so I don't want to give up on that just because Milos is back. I think there could be a three-man rotation there.
I was about to say, you're going to play one of them at the three? Like, you're going to have all three of them on the floor together?
Hey, if we put our zone in, which we haven't yet, it's possible.
Dion Perry obviously had a very good freshman year, came on stronger towards the end. I think kind of the way that you would hope to see him play, kind of taking more and more ownership. What have you seen from him in the off-season, in your foreign tour, and what's next for him as he heads into his summer?
Yeah, Dion is a tremendous talent. Sometimes people see his size and they understand he's talented, but they think he's limited. And to me, I think he's still just scratching the surface in terms of his understanding of the game, in terms of his ability to lead the team and be an extension of the coach on the floor. That's the stuff I'm talking to him a lot about because I think he can be a high scorer, a high assist guy, but also be a cerebral point guard that can run a team and that's what we're working for. He's still a sophomore. He's still a long way to go, but tremendous talent. He cares. He wants to win. He works on his game, and the guys like playing with him. So just want to make sure that we keep pushing him to be better. He's not, he's not even close to how good he can be.
Loyola coach Tavaras Hardy in studio with us on our college basketball preview show. I think I told you this, but my father came out and watched a game with me last year, and the first time he saw Dion, he said, "That's Muggsy."
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, that's a lofty,
Right.
That's pretty far up there, but I understand the thought process and the comparison. Dion, of course, the local kid from Mount Carmel. You added another local kid this year in a transfer in D'Angelo Steins from Mount St. Joe, who came in from Old Dominion, where he didn't play a ton, but I noticed he got some good run in the exhibition game and had a nice night. Is that perhaps a sign of maybe there being a larger role for D'Angelo with you guys this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a big part of his attraction to come to Loyola is, we were trying to get him out of high school, and, he saw an opportunity to come in and make an impact, have a bigger basketball role. And for us, he's a great basketball fit. D'Angelo can do a lot of different things. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass, he can play make, he can defend, and it's been fun adding him. He played really well over in Spain. He's played well in both our closed-door scrimmage and our exhibition. And again, he's getting better. He's still learning. He's learning the system, learning the way we do things, and it's exciting for him because we ask him to do a lot. Old Dominion is a little bit more of a role player deal for him, and we're asking him to be one of our playmaking guys.
I know last year when you brought in Tyson Commander, came in a little later than most of the freshmen,
Right.
was probably a little behind just for obvious reasons, and then saw kind of an uptick towards the end. Certainly seemed like a more settled player. And watching the exhibition game the other night, he looked like a guy that wasn't out there thinking about too
Right.
much. He was just playing. Is that a kind of a fair assessment? And
Yeah.
how much of a jump has he made here over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, he too was tremendous in Spain, and doing some things differently than he was asked to do in the past. Like, Tyson can really score the ball. He can get to the basket. He's probably our best at getting to the rim, but he's also a capable shooter. And what I'm saying, similar to him and the rest of the guys, like, I just want them all to see the game and use the total package of the game. That's what our offense allows. That's what our system requires. And I told him yesterday, I think if I was a player, that's what I would want, not to be put in a bubble. And so when I think about Tyson and all of his tools, I want him to attack the growth in all of those things. And you guys just asked about 3 Baltimore Catholic League MIAA, first-team guys. That's what we have. And if they do what they're supposed to do, that trio could really, combine with our front line and then a couple of senior guards. That group can really be successful for us.
Is it fair to say that it's not likely to be that one individual wing or guard is sort of carrying the load scoring-wise, but instead, like as you point out, those 3 guys maybe can make somebody else steps in, and on a given night, it's kind of their night?
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. And we haven't gotten there yet. So if anybody in the preseason is watching this, Florida, if you're watching, we haven't gotten there yet. But that's what I'm trying to get these guys to see and understand. No one, I mean, you can be super aggressive. That's fine. But we can be aggressive for each other across the board, not just our guards, our bigs, be aggressive to score, but be willing to kick. Our guards be aggressive to score. We'll be willing to pass it in, pass to each other. This could be a high-volume scoring team if they embrace that, and everybody will be a part of that. We don't have many limited guys, and so that's a fun part, but it's also a challenge because everyone feels like it's their moment. And so getting them to understand that when it really is and when it needs to be you helping somebody else, that's basketball.
You had a few staff changes this year, but one that certainly stood out was hiring Mike Brennan, the former American coach. Played at Princeton, so has experience with that system. Coached at Georgetown like you did, not at the same time, I don't believe.
Yeah.
How much of an impact has he made? And just knowing his kind of South Jersey sense of humor, how much has that sort of impacted things as well?
Yeah, no, Mike he's awesome. really, really excited to have him with us. I was trying to remember if when he asked about any coaches I've ever wanted to fight, if we had any moments when he was a head coach at American. But no, he's awesome. He provides for me a level of, okay, he's done this. He's been in this chair, and we have some similar background, but we don't think about things exactly the same. And that's, I love it. I love to hear his opinion. Ultimately, I have to make the decision if I'm a rock with it or not. But a lot of times I do, because I know what he's been through. I know the type of person he is, and I know how he thinks about the game and thinks about the guys. And so he's been a tremendous impact on me already and our guys already. And again, I tell him every other day, like, you're the only one that beat Colgate last year. And then the second game was really close. And so, obviously, I, as they were divvying up the scouts, I said, Mike got that one. But no, he's awesome. And the whole staff, I'm really excited about this year's staff. They've been tremendous for us. And, I think, it helps me sleep at night, knowing that I got, this type of experience with Mike, Matt Miller, John Cobb is entering his second year with us, and Ricky Hernandez, our new director of ops, was an assistant coach at Hopkins. So they've been through it, they've seen it, and they're really helping our guys get better.
You mentioned Colgate. Tavaras Hardy in studio with us this morning from Loyola. As he mentioned, the season opens up Monday night at Florida, and then the home opener the following Wednesday against Binghamton. Colgate's kind of had this stranglehold, right?
Yep.
And like, how do you break through? How do you take, a couple years ago, you guys were really close, right? How do you, what's the difference for this team to take that next step and get back towards the top of the Patriot League?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you get the job, and we really hit the ground running from a recruiting standpoint. I think we had a top 60 recruiting class, which was not common in the Patriot League at the time. We felt pretty good about how we were progressing. The guys I inherited turned out to be pretty good. The Andrew Kostekas of the world, the Kevon Scotts, and so we were building the right way. Obviously things happen, but this team is different from that one. And so we split with Colgate those first 2 years, and they still won the league. They kind of stretched out on us a little bit over the last few years, and to catch them, you can't be worried about them all the time. You gotta build the best program you can build. And for me, the next step for us is get out of that jumbled pack at the end of the year, where we're coming into the last game last week, and we're watching everybody else's scores. They're watching our scores. And literally, I think there was a 4 or 5 way tie, but everybody else was within a game or two for the up or down seed. And you just got to get out of that jumble. You got to get to a point where you're in the top 3 with the bullet, as they used to say in the old days. You're not worried about the last week of the season. You solidified that you're going to get home games going into the conference tournament. Maybe not all home games, but at least you're getting a couple. And then you give yourself a chance to win. And I think that's what it's going to take to catch a team like Colgate, is give yourself a chance down the stretch of the season, not to have to win 4 road games to beat them.
I think it's a 3-man freshman class for you guys this season. Would you mind kind of diving into those guys? I know Jordan Stemke played a bit in the exhibition game the other night, and I know Troy Cicero and Matt Gray. Our guys probably further down the road.
Yeah, definitely our most athletic freshman class by far. At the 3 different positions, and they are 3 very different guys. Right now, Matt and Troy are out, a little banged up, but Jordan he's the best athlete of the 3. Learning. He's a local kid from Baltimore County. Went to prep school last year. Just learning the game the way that it has to be played at the collegiate level. And once he does, I tell him, and I mean this because that was sort of the knock on Andrew Kosteka coming out of high school, was just sort of his understanding of the game. And he averaged 20 points for us in his last 2 years, led the Patriot League in scoring.
Seemed to understand the game.
Yeah. I think Jordan has a lot of similar skill sets, right? Troy and Matt, Troy is a lead guard. He's actually from my hometown. I've always wanted to recruit a kid from my hometown, but it had to be the right kid. He was good enough from a basketball standpoint, but he's a phenomenal young man. He was on a scooter the whole Spain trip because he hurt himself, and was a true warrior on that trip. Our host, after it was over, said, "Troy Cicero is my MVP of any team I've ever coached or taken on one of these tours." But he can play. He can make plays, and like I said, his athleticism really is going to allow him to defend and add a different dimension to us. And then Matt Gray Long, he's close to coming back. He has a versatile skill set, so I think he'll be able to really help us. He's like a Swiss Army knife. We can play in a lot of different spots.
All right, so now I've never asked you this. Are you a Bears fan, Coach?
That is a great question, and there's so many layers to this answer. Yes, I am a diehard Bears fan.
How you doing? Do you need a hug?
Well, that's the thing. And my wife and I made this agreement about a few different things. Like when I left Northwestern to go to Georgetown, Northwestern's my alma mater, so I could still watch them because I yell at the TV. But you don't work there anymore. So she's like, Northwestern's fine. But when I left Georgetown to go to Georgia Tech, she said Northwestern only. You can't yell at the TV about Georgetown.
Okay.
And so it's the same thing with the Bears. If they stink, I don't watch.
So when was the last time that you watched?
Yeah, it's been a while. Lovey and Lovey Smith. I think we had
Ryan Urlacher.
Yeah,
right.
No, we had Devin Hester. That's the last time.
Yeah, it's been a minute. That is a tough existence. I was actually hoping that you were going to tell me that you agreed that you were going to become a fan of the next city, and then I was like, what? Not Washington.
Yeah. No, so I am allowed to root for the team of the city I live in. That's a part of, but only if they're good too.
Yeah. I was gonna say a little bit better in this stop than some of the places that you.
Oh no, the Falcons went to the Super Bowl when we were down there.
Yeah, it was all good right up until they got a 28-3 advantage.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, the season gets underway on Monday night on the road down in Florida, and then 2 weeks from last night, the first home game against Binghamton for the Greyhounds. Coach, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you for coming in and spending time with us this morning. And hopefully we actually got you on the screen. Hopefully the camera worked out. And then when Pat comes in, we'll have to, adjust it.
I was trying to slouch a little bit, to be honest. I was thinking about Pat.
Great to see you, Coach. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you, guys.
We will grab a break. We'll come back in, and we'll talk a little bit more. Next up is going to be Jim Ferry from UMBC as we continue along the college basketball preview show.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Todd Karpovich profiles the Orioles' survivors, Anthony Santander, Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, and Ryan Mountcastle, who all came from the previous regime but stuck through tough times to be key pieces in guiding the franchise back to prominence. Also inside, we remember the iconic Brooks Robinson with tributes from Jim Henneman and myself, Stan the Fan Charles, and a trip down memory lane to remember the most significant moments of his career. Plus, we meet players from college basketball programs around the state. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Visit Harford County. Gear up for the holidays by supporting local with Small Business Saturday on November 25th. Take in the dazzling sights of the season with a Ladue Christmas at Ladue Topiary Gardens. Enjoy holiday lights, sing along to holiday songs, reserve a carriage ride, and sit on Santa's lap in Bel Air's Winter Wonderland, happening every Saturday from November 25th until December 16th. Nothing sparks that holiday joy quite like a festive parade. Head to visitharford.com and click on Events to see the full list of parades and so much more. In Maryland, you're welcome.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, we continue along here on the College Basketball Preview Show. A reminder that today's show is brought to you by Superbook. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook.com or with the Superbook app. You'll receive a same-day first bet match up to $250, win or lose. Superbook.com or download the Superbook app. Patrick Stevens in studio with us. I guess, Patrick, give me your thumbnail on Loyola real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's pieces there. And, we talked about having some options in the front court with DK and Milos Ilic and Alonzo Faure. That's a pretty good Patriot League front line. I don't know if it's probably not as good as Colgate's, for example, but it's still pretty darn good. You have Deion Perry, Tyson Commander, D'Angelo Steins. I think that's going to be the foundation of a really solid Patriot League backcourt. And I think Tavaras Hardy nailed it on the head. Can they escape that scrum of 4-9 or whatever? Last year it was a 4-way tie for 6th in a team that was a game ahead that was in 5th place at the end of the season. And so I think, and it might have even been just one more game for the teams that were 3rd and 4th. So it wasn't like that's a lot, but you pick up one more home win, one more road win along the way, and suddenly you've elevated.
You're hosting a quarterfinal,
suddenly,
right?
You might even be getting a semifinal home game at that point. I think Colgate and Lehigh are going to be the 2 best teams in the Patriot League this year. But I also think beyond that, it's wide open. I mean, I feel like American has some older guys, and they should be pretty solid. But I don't see a major impediment there to being able to crack the top half of the league, potentially get a home game in the tournament, get a bye, don't have to play on that first day, all those things. So I think it's an important year too. I mean, it's year 6, so I think for sure for Loyola, this is a year that's probably going to go a long way in determining, kind of the direction of things moving forward. And I think there's a lot there, and I think Tavaras Hardy has done a pretty good job, even if the results haven't necessarily been there. He certainly attracted a lot of talent. Gotten a little unlucky with the pandemic. Got a little unlucky that Santi Aldama didn't stick around. Got a little unlucky that Cam Spencer left. Some of that's just life in college basketball in 2023, and you have to deal with it. But I do think that they are positioned to, I think, have their best season since he's taken over.
I want to go through a couple of national headlines, if we could, before the season. You and I'm going to save Maryland. You and I will be talking about Maryland, obviously, on Tuesday as they get ready to play Mount St. Mary's, so we can save that. But national headlines, and I know Kansas is number 1, but if I could, it's almost hilarious to me when I look up and I see 2 Big Ten teams in the top 5 of the national poll, because it's almost a running joke at this point, like that. What are we doing here? The Big Ten always disappoints at the end of the year, Is there any chance that a Michigan State or Purdue could change that this season?
I think first of all, if we look at the wide angle lens, like Purdue is one of the 5 best teams in the country. They were one of the 5 best teams in the country last year. They just happened to play poorly and ran into a Fairleigh Dickinson team that played well, but Purdue did not play well. Let's not let them off the hook for that. And they have not played well in those single postseason games, whether it was against North Texas or St. Peter's or whoever. But I do think you can fairly say I think you can separate the two and say that this Purdue program, especially with Zach Edey, is one of the 5 best teams in the country right now, and there's a pretty good chance that we're going to be sitting here talking about them as a 1 or a 2 seed by the time March rolls around, based on what they've accomplished and based on what they've accomplished before they got into Big Ten play. Michigan State's a team that has probably left people wanting a little bit more at times during the regular season. Last year they were a Sweet 16 team. They've got a lot of guys back. I think there's probably a little extra element of optimism there that they're going to be a top 5 team. I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I do think they're going to be the 2nd best team in the Big Ten. What does that mean?
To your point, they're almost the anti-Big Ten team, right?
Yes.
Like they're the team that disappoints during the year, but you can actually count on during March.
Yeah, I was actually going to argue Michigan was that.
Okay,
team,
all
too,
right.
But I don't think Michigan's going to be very good. But that was what Michigan was 2 years ago.
Right.
It's sort of the thought of, to me, the interesting thing of the hubbub around Hunter Dickinson in the offseason and where's he going to go and this, that, and the other. And it's like, this is a dude whose team went like 38 and 31 the last 2 years. And I get it. If you're a big guy, you don't have quite as much impact. We saw it with Purdue, too.
Yeah, there's a limit to how much.
There's a limit of how much you can do, but it's not like that was somebody that elevated a team to greatness because of that. And so, and that's sort of the Edey question, too. Like, how much can he do if he's not starting off with the ball in his hands? So, listen, I'm extremely skeptical of pretty much the entire league, but I will give Michigan State this much credit. You look at them and you say they probably have the best guard tandem in the league. And when you looked last year, that was what was missing all over the league except at Northwestern. Like, Northwestern was the one team that you knew had 2 good guards. I think Michigan State has a couple guys. It's Huggard and Walker. I think they'll be better this year. They were kind of a tandem last year where usually one of them played well.
Mm-hmm.
And if both played well, great, but you couldn't necessarily count on them both playing well. I think they'll both play well a lot more this season. But who else in the league has that? I don't know.
Is it fair to say that it is completely open after those top 2 teams?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think that you could frankly, I think Maryland's the 3rd best team in the league.
Wow.
I think Jameer Young, again,
Mm-hmm.
a guard,
Mm-hmm.
like that makes a difference. I get kind of jaded by trusting what my eyeballs tell me, and I've seen Illinois come into College Park and play poorly so often over the years.
It's hard to,
It's
right?
hard,
Right.
But in aggregate, on paper, they got Terrence Shannon. Like, they should be a top 4 or 5 team in the Big Ten. Wisconsin has a bunch back, but that wasn't a very impressive team last year. Is simply having a bunch back going to be enough to elevate them from being an NIT team to a Big Ten contender? I don't think so, but they could certainly be 4th or 5th or something like that, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise. And then you start getting into the Indianas of the world, which people I think are maybe more bullish on than they should be. And then other teams that, you look at Iowa year in and year out, like it's almost the same season every year. Like, they score, they don't play defense, and they wind up 6th or 7th, plus or minus a spot or so in the Big Ten. So I don't see a reason why Iowa, which I think people are looking at as maybe a 10th or 11th place team, isn't going to be contending for an NCAA tournament berth, because that's what they always do. Now, they won't last very long when they get there,
but neither will anybody else in the Big Ten.
So and we can run through a few. Like, Ohio State had that nice run at the end of the season. Is that a prelude, or was that just sort of a last gasp of that particular roster? They did keep some younger players, so they have a little bit of continuity. But I look, all these teams that we mentioned, Northwestern still has Boo Billy. And, Rutgers, is going to defend and be an absolutely miserable team to have to deal with at their place. And then you could even start getting into a handful of teams like a Nebraska should be better. Right? Shouldn't we be seeing a little proof of concept there? I thought we saw a little bit more of it last year. So you have all that, but I don't see a lot of teams that are poised to be able to make deep runs in March. And the interesting thing, and I have a working theory that one of the things that works against that particular league right now is you're playing 20 league games, you're crisscrossing time zones a ton during the regular season, and that's about to get a lot worse.
Yeah, it's about to get insane.
Okay, with the 4 West Coast teams coming in. So I think that has something to do with it. And frankly, the style of play has something to do with it too. Because at the end of the day, everybody loves to talk about how defense wins championships, but you have to score to win.
So you already brought up – there's 2 names that you brought up there that are interesting to folks around here, and I'll follow up on both of them. You brought up Hunter Dickinson. Kansas is number 1. You and I had talked during the Hunter Dickinson sweepstakes about is Hunter Dickinson the right piece for a team that's trying to win a national championship? Now, they have other pieces.
They have a lot of pieces, right?
At Kansas.
I think that if I think you can justify being a little more excited when you already have all these other pieces to work with. So you have a good pedigree, all that stuff. You've also got a crazy league, right? Like that league was already the best league top to bottom, and they just added Houston. And Cincinnati's not going to be too bad. And, BYU is usually good to win 20 games or so. So, I don't know how much Central Florida is going to help this year.
Yeah, right.
But they've been feisty.
We remember the Taco Fall teams of a few years ago, right?
They've had some good teams. So, it'll be interesting to see if this is a Kansas team that is able to get through with the same sort of record that Kansas is accustomed to getting through. Not that they have been able to get through unblemished through the Big 12 over the last few years or anything, but there's a difference, I think, between going 13-5 and 11-7 or something like that.
All right, he is Patrick Stevens. He is in the studio with us for this year's college basketball preview show. And next on the hot seat this morning, we head to Zoom to welcome in the head coach, the UMBC Retrievers. He is Coach Jim Ferry, and he is with us this morning. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's always good to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us. All right, we will see if we can't get that fixed and figure out what's going on there. As Jim Ferry, UMBC basketball coach, is up next. Oh, Coach, you got me? You got us?
I do.
All
hey,
right.
guys, thanks for having me. How's everybody doing, all right?
Everything is good, Coach. It's good to hear from you. Coach, before we get started with your team, I wonder, because one of the big stories in college basketball of late is the news about the NIT. And I feel like that your program, because you've been competing for championships so much recently and obviously knowing the stops that you've been at before, just your thoughts on the route that college basketball is going and no longer, benefiting the regular season champions of leagues like yours to make sure you have that opportunity.
Yeah, really disappointing. I know Danny personally, Danny Gavitt. I don't see where that decision was made in the best interest of college basketball, certainly for all of college basketball. From my understanding, there was, Fox Television, which is in charge of everything nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fox was trying to get a tournament out in Vegas, to go against the NIT. And I think the NIT kind of just pulled the trigger real quick to try to take those teams away. I think what makes the NIT special are those teams that get the automatic bid. Those teams are excited to be in the NIT, some of these teams that you're talking about taking from the Power 5 or Power 6 after the NCAA tournament. So I coached in the Big 10, right? You get 9 teams. They're still talking about taking 2 more teams. So you're talking about taking 10 and 11, automatically in that. I don't know. It's just not. And I think the NIT is special. I was on a staff. We won the NIT championship my first year at Penn State. And it's a pretty special experience. And tournaments run very well. So I'm really, really, really disappointed. And I sure hope it's not a prelim to the Power 5, Power 6 is trying to take over the NCAA tournament, because that would be a shame.
We wholeheartedly agree about that, Coach. And Patrick and I have definitely seen some teams over the years that made the NIT from power conferences that had no interest in being there whatsoever. None, not at all. Coach, I 10 new players this year on your roster, so I hope you're not offended when I ask the question this way. Who are these guys, right? Like, tell me about how it is that you went about putting together this year's team.
Well, I'm gonna have a roster here next week because I'm still kind of learning each guy's name. No, listen. You know what? I have an unbelievable staff. My guys work extremely hard. Whether we're bringing in one guy or we're bringing in 10 guys or 15 guys, it's all about the character, the person. So we do a really, really good job of bringing in great people that fit our university and fit our program. And when you do it that way, I think it's a little bit easier to bring in 10 guys when you're bringing in character and stability. So we kind of like last year we brought in 8 guys, and I kind of went with the grad transfer route, older guys. This year I kind of really blended it out a little bit. The transfers that we took are going to be here for years now if the NCAA holds true and doesn't allow you to transfer twice. We took one grad transfer who's only here for a year. We took some high school kids. So we really blended a great group together. It's been enjoyable as a coach, except as you see, my hair is getting a lot grayer. I used to have blonde hair probably before this season started. But it brings you back to your roots as a coach. You got to coach everything. You're coaching not only player development, you're coaching team unity, you're coaching emotions, you're implementing new things because everything's new for everybody. So fortunately, we have a great group of guys. We are really competitive. We're really tough. We're really aggressive. And the fact that we had this summer has really helped us a lot, that we're able to blend these guys together in the summer before school starts. So things are going pretty well right now. We've had a scrimmage and an exhibition game, and we played well and played poorly in each one. So it's great. It's kind of showed us what we need to work on as we get ready for the first game.
Jim, one of the holdovers is Dion Brown, who obviously maybe got a little bit of a slow out of the gates because of injury and what have you last year, but had a really solid freshman year. How have you seen him develop this offseason, and how important is he going to be for what you guys want to do?
Yeah, what people don't realize about Dion is, he did not do anything until late November last year to even start practice. Because he was returning from an ACL injury. So he didn't do anything in the summer, didn't do anything in the fall, couldn't practice when practice started. And then when he was cleared to go, we just kind of threw him in the fire, played him out of position all year. Now we're playing him in his natural position. The one thing people will see about Dion, he's a tremendous, tremendous leader. Does a fantastic job. He's really vocal, he's really aggressive, holding himself accountable on the team. And I think people are going to see a totally different Dion this year just because he gets to play on the ball, which is his natural position. I think he's a kid that has all league caliber talent, whether it's this year or next year. He has a kid that's going to be an all league player.
Coach Jim Ferry from UMBC with us on our college basketball preview show. Coach, among the newcomers is a freshman who matters a lot to Baltimore basketball folks, and that's, of course, Ace Valentine from Mount St. Joe, someone who's played in the building before and has won titles. How quickly does Ace have an opportunity to step in and make an impact? And, is there, almost any pressure that a kid carries, having been such a successful player locally?
Yeah, Ace is doing a fantastic job. I mean, not only is he right down the road, he's in the same town. He's a local kid. He's a fantastic kid. He's a great student, comes from a great family. He's doing a really good job. But he's also, he's a freshman. So he's having some freshman up and downs each day in practice, in games. But he's a really competitive kid. He's played pretty well in spurts in each one of our scrimmages and exhibitions. He's going to have an opportunity to play this year. There's no doubt about it. And I think what you're going to see out of Ace is more so by the end of the year, you're really going to see his development at this college game.
Just doing a little bit of box score scanning from that game up at Fordham the other day. And 3 of those newcomers stand out: Marcus Banks, Bryce Johnson, and Kadarius Smith. What have you kind of seen from those guys in particular? And I guess, is it fair to say that they're going to be pretty important for what you're going to do?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Bryce is an extremely athletic guard that can shoot threes, really fits our style of play and what we're doing. Obviously, all 3 of those guys having great experience. Marcus, I think he had like 32 points in our first scrimmage against another college team. Played very well at Fordham. He's just a mature, physical man, the way he approaches the game. And then Kadarius, again, experienced forwards, to have a guy like him in our program. He played fantastic against Fordham the other day. I think those three guys are going to give us, and plus Max Lorker, are really going to give us game experience. We're trying to get shared experiences right now as a team, and every day is a shared experience for us. But those guys have actually played in high-level games and competition, and they've done a really good job of kind of adjusting to the way we want to play, while bringing us, the experience of being really good college basketball players.
UMBC opens at Louisville next Monday, and then the home opener that next Saturday against Marist in Catonsville. Coach, who are maybe some of the other newcomers that you can already sense are going to be key contributors early on to what it is that you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, some are newcomers and some are returners that didn't play much. Devin Sapp's really done a very good job. He played a little bit for us last year. He's a big, physical, versatile basketball player. We play him kind of all over the floor. He's got the ability to shoot threes. He can really rebound the basketball. Another kid that's done really well for us is Frank Emu, another freshman, very similar to Ace. Good size, another 6'4", 6'5" guard, that can do multiple things. We're trying to play real positionless basketball this year and play really, really fast. And I think for these young guys, it's a little bit of an adjustment, but he's really doing a good job. And then, like I said, Mac Lorker Lloyd, who is a Penn graduate, played at Penn, transferred to us as a grad transfer, who has 2 years, has been tremendous. For the first time since I've been here, we really have rim protection. He's top 10 in the country in blocks per minutes played, and it showed the other night. I think he had 7 blocks at Fordham against a much bigger physical team. And he's just another guy that's just really, really easy to play with. Another guy is Marlon Short. He's a Division II transfer, been recovering from an injury a little bit, but just another guy. He's 6'5". He just knows how to play, easy to play with, great teammate. He's coming off of an injury right now, so we're going to see if we can get him ready for the game Monday night. But so far, everybody's been contributing. I think it's going to be a team this year that we're going to play at least 9 guys, maybe 10 guys at a time, just because we're going to be playing so fast and so aggressive.
One sort of scheduling question I had for you. I know last year you were pleased with how hosting an MTE went. Those, sort of a 3-team event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously enough to do it again. Just what are the benefits of doing something like that?
Well, for one, it gets us some home games. Mm-hmm. It's really hard as a mid-major to get home games. We got to go on the road and we play the up games, like you say, the Marylands, the Iowas, the Louisvilles. And just to be able to get some home games, you want to host some teams and you can get in there and you get some, good competition. So, like this year, Loyola is in it. Mm-hmm. And very uniquely, we played at Loyola last year. They were going to come back and play to us this year. We were struggling getting another team in there. So, we asked Tavaras if he wanted to come over and play in it, which obviously gave him a neutral site game as well. So I think it's an opportunity to get like opponents and, like I said, get some home games out of it, because it's really hard getting like opponents to play, and especially get them here.
You guys got a really unique opportunity this summer, Coach. Some guy that people might have heard of named Steph Curry came over to the building and spent some time, and I saw that he was working out with some of your players. Can you take me through what that meant to those guys? And, I don't know that it matters all that much when it's all said and done. I don't know that it's going to help you go try to beat Louisville next week, but I'm sure it had to be a thrill for the guys that were involved with that.
Yeah, we have a great relationship with Under Armour, obviously being local and knowing those guys, and those guys taking care of us. So, whenever you get an opportunity to have your guys around arguably one of the best players in the game right now, I think that's pretty special. And Steph is a down-to-earth guy. He's not a guy that was a 5-star recruit growing up, so I think he respects all that stuff. And he came in, he spent some time with our guys. He got to work out with some of our guys, and guys just spending some time with him and stuff. I think that stuff's special. And I think that, having that opportunity and just being here in Baltimore and being close with Under Armour to get that, it absolutely helps our program.
You didn't happen to hear from anybody else? Like, can you promise me next year that if I come to UMBC, I get to hang out with Steph Curry? Like, it didn't become like almost a burden now for future recruiting, did it?
It'll be part of the NIL, right? We'll sell it as part of our NIL.
There could be worse things, man. There could be way worse things.
No doubt.
Coach, you when you got here, you knew, right, that you were walking into a place with expectations. You knew that this has been a program that had been competing for championships and right there. How good has it felt to be able to continue that, to say, hey, we have kept that sort of standard of being a top team, and what has it taken in order to be able to keep this going at UMBC?
I'll be quite honest with you guys. I really didn't pay attention to that stuff. Ryan was a fantastic coach and did a great job, and UMBC's been to the NCAA tournament, I think, twice in its program history. I've been in the NCAA tournament at the Division I level twice myself, as taking a program there. So I want to help this program get back, more so for the kids, because it's such a special opportunity. I've been coaching a long time, and no one's going to be putting, or nothing's going to be putting pressure on me more than myself to do things the right way. This place is unique. We have a beautiful facility. We have an administration that really cares. I think we're in a great conference for who we are. The first year for us to get to the championship game, my first year, that's usually pretty hard to do because it's an adjustment. But it was a goal, and as it is every year. Disappointing that we didn't win that game and get to the NCAA tournament. Last year, again, we had another 18 wins. Finishing the top 4 in the league. I think we have a chance to do that this year. I think we'll have a chance to do it every single year. We've really upgraded the schedule, though. I really try to challenge us here since I've gotten here. We're not playing multiple Division III games. We're really trying to play a tougher schedule. We're playing 3 Colonial games. I don't even know if it's called a Colonial anymore. I don't even know what the conference is called. But we're playing Maryland. We're opening up at Louisville. We're going out to Iowa. I'm playing all the local teams. I'm playing Towson. I'm playing Loyola. I'm playing Coppin. I'm playing Morgan. I think that stuff's really, really important. But when you look at our schedule compared to some of the other schedules in our league, ours is really challenging. But I'm doing that to prepare our guys. So it might not be, 23-win seasons, but it's going to be seasons where we're ready to compete in our conference, to compete for a conference championship.
Yeah, I believe it is the Coastal, and we'll ask Pat because he just wandered into studio with us in a second. We'll get him to explain it to us. Jim Ferry, as we mentioned, obviously the season opens up next Monday night at Louisville, and then the home opener against Marist on November 11th. Coach, really appreciate you taking some time for us this morning here on the preview show. Thanks for doing this, and we'll be checking in during the course of the season, all right?
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys. Have a great year.
It's Coach Jim Ferry from UMBC with us here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Today's show also brought to you, or how about just a reminder, that the Tyus Bowser Show returns next Tuesday night. We will be at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North with Tyus and a special guest. Hope you can come join us for that next Tuesday night. The Tyus Bowser Show. It's a partnership of Pressbox and Grade 8's memorabilia. It's brought to you by HelpMyGamblingProblem.org as well as Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels. I was just going to go since he's here, I was going to roll right into it, right? Like, get right to it. Next up on the hot seat this morning here in our college basketball. You won't need him. You won't need him, Coach. It's only going to be awkward. You don't. You're going to end up you're good. You're good. It is the Coastal now, not the Colonial any longer, right? I have that correct, Coach?
I think you do. Who knows?
Joining us now in studio, he is the coach of the Towson Tigers. Our friend Pat Skerry is back in the studio.
That sounds like a great new slogan for the league.
CAA basketball. Who knows?
Who knows? Not bad. Not bad.
It's great to be here, fellas, right?
Always good to see you.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Speaking of who knows when you're going to find out if Nenda Tart can play for you? That's what I want to know. When do you get that? Who do we got to call and figure out what's going on there?
Hey, I like having people that want to get this done for us. That's great. Well, my athletic director, Steve Eigenbrot, and my assistant AD in charge of compliance, Terry Porter, are working on it. As you know, coaches don't get to talk to the NCAA, so our expectations are that we're going to get some positive news.
Which is weird because I assume you'd be so reasonable if you were talking to the NCAA. I just assume knowing you, you'd be very measured. You'd be very,
I would. I'd like to get them on the phone about Nender and maybe the NIT.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
And their customer service. We could have a grand old time having a little bit of a chat. So yeah, we're hopeful on Nender. Really good player, good kid, talented, good fit. So yeah, hopefully he's practicing with us. He obviously wasn't with us in the summer. So he didn't take the trip, so he's kind of like the last guy in. But, yeah, he's certainly a guy that will help us. I guess this is like a little bit of a national story right now in college basketball. So let's put in, let's make it hard for waivers, and I get it. But let's not be prepared that we're going to be an onslaught of potential waivers and be understaffed and, big games the next weekend. Like, people have meaningful games that'll impact their program later on, and we're waiting on kids. It's just head shaking that in the men's basketball, right? That covers like 92% of the NCAA tournament.
You know when the season starts. Like you guys are aware of when the games are being played.
It's crazy, So guys like Nender and everyone else that's waiting, hopefully, people maybe could work past 4 or 5 o'clock in the name of student athletes.
Well, let's go ahead and take on another one of those NCAA issues, the NIT news from last week, which was one of those. It felt like a careful Friday news dump at like
2 o'clock,
3 o'clock in the afternoon, slipping one past the goalie. I haven't found anybody that has like said that's a good thing. To basically guarantee these at-large spot or these automatic berths for power conferences. Essentially, I know Dan Gavitt told a conference call yesterday. It was about,
I read that. Yeah,
holding off the Fox TV deal and all that. So there was a financial element to it. But what are your kind of thoughts as a coach that has taken a team to the NIT?
Well, I think the big thing with is. Obviously coaches. I'm on the NABC Congress. It came out of left field. I question more. I don't like the decision, but I really disappointed in the leadership of the NCAA men's basketball in their customer service of not letting anyone know. I don't think that's really a proper way to lead. And I think I've known Dan Gavitt for a long time. That's just disappointing that would be the manner and that it was broken. I mean, the way it was, like you just said, the way it was broken leads you to believe this isn't going to be good. It's probably not good, but we're going to just do it and hope no one pays attention. Like, that's just, so hopefully it is temporary what they alluded to, but there's certainly, I just know, like, if you watch the top of our league last year, those teams are better than 14 and 17 Power 6 teams that we're going to play in the postseason.
And not just that, but those are teams that are going to be excited to go play an extra game. I mean, you've been around teams both good and bad over the years.
Sure.
That when you're a lot of teams that get to the end and they're 17 and 16 and they've just gone through being 6 and 12 in a power league. A lot of them are ready just to go home.
Yeah, let's go to spring break. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think guys like yourself kind of continuing to pump that message out that it's just not good and get eyes on it is helpful. So it's appreciated from guys in our boat,
All right. He is Pat Skerry. He said his piece. He said what he needed to say about this. Let me go back to Nenda for a second, because whenever he plays, whenever he gets on the floor, we have seen, Patrick and I, from having watched, Coppin obviously, what is it that he brings to your team when he gets on the floor?
Well, one, he'll bring defense. He's got a Big East body, and he can move. And then what I've really been impressed with is his IQ. He's been well coached, between Juan Dixon and Bruce Kelly down at the Bullish School. So he just has a really good feel. And then every team is different. I think he gives us something that we kind of don't have with this group. We have a lot, but he gives us something that would blend in kind of an area that he does a lot of different things. He's like a rotisserie league guy.
One guy you do have back that everybody knows about is Charles Thompson, and I know it had to be hard to end up saying goodbye to that core, a lot of that core group, but to have him back for another year, how great is that for you guys? And you know, he's obviously a guy that has continued to get better. What's his next step?
Yeah, I will say he's had as good an off season as anyone we've had in my 12 years here. He's really changed his body. Not that it was bad before, and he's become much better with the ball and decision making. You know, Pat, you're as big as stats guys. You know, like we do a lot of analytical stuff, and other than Aaron Estrada, one of the services we subscribe to, he was the highest rated guy in the conference. So also because his value on the defensive side of the ball. So we were thrilled to get him back. There is no better ambassador for Towson University and athletics than Charlie Thompson. You know, he's here for all the right reasons. He's a great leader. He gives us a chance every night out. So we're just appreciative that he's back.
Coach Pat Skerry from Towson is in studio with us. Unfortunately, you're not going to have Marcus Watson. And I don't know if this means, like, no more Canadian trips ever again in the future because it's cursed or something like that. But someone who I think I understood was someone there was a lot of expectation for. How do you go up trying to make up for that during the course of the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's awful what happened to Marcus. You know, he had practiced with us like 4 times, and then we got him to Canada, and it was literally 4 minutes into the first game. So he's from a...
You don't start to think, like, are we cursed? You don't, like, have, like, a feeling like that goes through. Coach, can I ask you to squeeze that microphone a little bit higher, close to you? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I do a little bit. We've had a lot of injuries over the last couple years in spite of having success. So hopefully we can get past that. Trust me on that. That's something I'm asking a lot about. But I will say for Marcus, he is way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. And obviously an unbelievable athlete and a worker.
Are you suggesting there is a chance that he could? This isn't like an Aaron
Rodgers. There is a chance.
There is a chance.
There is a chance. I wouldn't want to cap it. It's also hard to jump in, but I also will say it's not anything that we will use as an excuse. He hadn't practiced or played with us long enough for that to happen. It was a lot more challenging the last 2 years to lose good players in season when you don't have time to kind of prepare for that.
Christian May's a guy that played a fair bit for you as a freshman. I know there's some optimism that he could be a guy ready to take another step. I mean, what have you seen from him?
A lot. He's talented. He's, we've been fortunate to have some guys from year 1 to year 2 take big steps, especially perimeter players, and he's got the ability to do that. He's also committed on both ends of the floor. So we're expecting a big year from him, and quite honestly, if for us to get where we believe we can get, he's going to need to do that.
Who else? Who else is ready to, take as we talk about having Charles back, we also recognize you lost 2 of your top, players from a year ago. Who else is ready to take that next step up to make a difference this season?
Well, Hicks will. He's healthy. He's changed his body. Williamson's really gifted. Dylan Williamson. He'll play a lot. He can score. I shouldn't have redshirted him last year. I did because Jason Gibson, when he got hurt, that wasn't a season-ending injury. We were told repeatedly that couple more weeks. So in hindsight, it was my decision. It was a bad decision, but I know why I did it. But he's good. He's good. He's gifted. We haven't had a guy that crafty with the ball, maybe in my tenure. Chase Power, I'm proud of him. He's lost 25 pounds. He has been through every practice since the summer. He only played 5 games last year. Tyler Coleman's improved. He's a guy that's been in the program kind of waiting his turn. So we have a half dozen guys back that understand winning. And then we've added some guys. Right off the bat, we've got 2 very good transfers that are men physically, Messiah Jones and Tamiwa Suleiman. I mean, these guys they've got bodies like the kid Moto we had a couple years, not quite as big as that. So rebounders and a little bit better shooters than we thought, good teammates. They fit in. And then we've got 2 freshmen that are going to play a lot right out the gate. Kid Tyler Tejada, who is he's about 222 pounds, a 6'9" guard. He's wired to score.
Did you say 222 pounds, 6'9" guard?
He is. He's getting committed defensively. He loves basketball. He's talented.
That sounds like a nightmare if that's the case.
He's talented. He led us in. He was second on our trip over up north behind Charlie in scoring. He's a good player. Gym rat, And then kid Makai Lowry, I think people are going to really like. He's he's still figuring out his game, but he's about 6'7". He's got a 7.5 reach. Very athletic, about 210. He's really plays incredibly hard. So those two guys, we're longer than we've been and maybe stronger. And I think as good as our team was last year, we were a little bit uncommitted at times defensively. I don't anticipate that being an issue with this group at all. I think it'll start with two things with our group. It'll start our defense, and then can we take care of the basketball so that we're not in transition defensively.
Looking at the league, last year was a kind of an odd season in that when you looked at the top 4 or so teams, it was a group that was fairly imposing. College of Charleston was a fabulous team. You had Wilmington, you had you guys, and all that. But then you also had a number of teams that really struggled, and some of that was a matter of teams coming into the league and not necessarily being ready for that. What do you expect that to improve a little bit, first off? And second, how does the league kind of have to do its best to help integrate some of those programs?
Yeah, good question. We seem to get all the teams twice that are good. That seemed to be the deal last year, and I hope it's different this year. But I know they sent us back to Charleston and Wilmington twice. I know our league told me there have been really good games for the league. I said, good games for who?
For TV,
we ain't chartering down there, and it's hostile environments. I said, I guess that's a backhanded compliment. I'm sure that in this day and age, right? We knew we were going to be good 2 years ago. We brought in guys that we knew were good, and guys were coming back. So maybe people didn't think we were going to be good. I'm sure there's going to be some teams that are, very good. I picked Charleston to win the league last year. I was the only coach that did that. I would say off the bat, I'm sure Northeastern's going to be better. He's a terrific coach, and it's just one of those things. I think every coach says when you get into your league, right, all the games get hard. It's hard to evaluate the non-conference. I would say what's probably disappointing with our league, there's probably 3 to 4 schools that are playing pretty tough schedules. There's some good teams that aren't playing good schedules. So for us, it's always been like, hey, how do we try to get ready for the conference? Now, you got to win, right? For me, it's a little different. When you lose like 55 games your first year, you don't worry about playing. You don't worry about playing tough non-conference schedules.
Just need to get some wins.
Well, on the subject of scheduling, you guys go to Charleston for the MTE down there. You go to South Dakota State, which technically neutral site, but not really. You play Bryant up at the Islanders Arena. Did you feel like you did a good job of maintaining a quality schedule while also obviously getting a few extra home games compared to
last year, we couldn't get anyone home, and I probably overextended us, although,
but some of that comes back to you thought you had Jason Gibson for all that time, too.
He did. Started out pretty good when we had him, it's, the Charleston deal, the field is obviously as strong as it's ever been down there. I didn't know that going in, but you could get into that once every 4 years. Our league sponsor. Really, the only guys that have been aggressive about playing in that has been Northeastern and ourselves. I just feel like for Towson and our university, anytime we can play on national television against those type of opponents, we got to take those opportunities. So that's why I would do it every year if we could.
Speaking of television, and I want to be careful because I know Flow Hoops is a partner of you guys, and heck, they might be hiring at some point. And so, hello, love Flow Hoops. But I also know that has been a source of frustration for a lot of CA basketball fans. You guys go and do a deal to get games on Monumental this season. I know that doesn't matter in going to try to beat Colorado next week, but the significance of that for your program, that fans will have the opportunity to watch the games on TV and what that means to the entire fan base.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So two things. One, to help out our conference, in spite of sometimes maybe they think I don't, is I think Flow Sports has spent a lot of money to upgrade the paywalls and the accessibility when you're navigating that. Two is the deal we have with Flow Sports allows us to get games, use the money to get games on CBS Sports. We have the most games in the country that don't play 1A football on the national TV patch. So we've got like 24, 25 games on CBS Sports this year. So it makes sense. Everyone knows ESPN, but there's no guarantee they're going to put you on linear. They can just put you on all the computer stuff. Now, with the Monumental, boy, I'd fought for that for like 4 or 5 years because that's what some of the teams we've been compared to had.
Like Delaware and Drexel
Yeah.
have done that.
Well, no disrespect to Delaware and Drexel. We've been a lot better than Delaware and Drexel over the last decade. But like Charleston and Northeastern and Hofstra. Yeah, so I'm really appreciative of Mike Gathigan in our office and Steve Eigenbrot. Last year they were on NBC Sports Washington. Now it's on Monumental. It's huge. Throughout the COVID year, the last 3 years, we've had a ton of TV opportunities. We've got a brand new president that just started who I think really understands the value of that, Mark Ginsburg. So it's exciting, right? We got a great university. We can get on TV in basketball. We continue to invest in it, and it showcases our university.
Seems like a win-win. Seems like it's a good thing for everybody involved. The season, as I mentioned, gets underway at Colorado on Monday night, and then the home opener against Robert Morris next Sunday, November 12th. If this is going to be the year that Towson breaks through to win the CAA, and I know how much heartbreak you've been through, and we joke about curses. What goes right this year for this to be the year?
Well, first thing, we got to stay healthy. And we just got to put ourselves in positions we've been in and hope for a little good fortune. There's no magic formula. This is a group that works hard and is connected and has a chance to be really deep. Last year was frustrating in some ways because we didn't finish the job. In other ways, I was proud of the guys because they adapted to some changing personnel situations during the year, and that wasn't ideal for some. That's not what they signed up for. So, my whole thing is like, look, are we going to be really hard to play against? That's what I want people to say when they watch our team play. I don't know if we're there yet on that. We're going to find out Monday in some of our early tests whether we're ready or not. I do think that'll eventually toughen our group up. But I like the group a lot. I can't say enough about them as far as the type of guys they are and how hard they work. And the leadership of Thompson and Hicks has been as good as we've ever had.
There you go. He is Coach Pat Skerry. Coach, it's so good to see you. Always appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. Anything else you want to get off your chest about the NCAA before we let you go?
You guys are the best. Yeah, feel free to email me, anyone at the pskerry@towson.edu. We can talk there.
I appreciate you, Coach. It's great to see you. Coach Pat Skerry from Towson with us here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Next up, Kevin Broadus from Morgan State will be in studio with us. That's next as we continue along on a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GLENCLARK23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GLENCLARK23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to pressboxonline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of Pressbox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels. And if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
The Orioles brought us a summer we'll never forget in 2023, securing their first division title in 9 years. And while the playoffs ended quicker than we had hoped in Birdland, the future is brighter than ever. I'm Paul Valley, and along with Zach Goodman, we'll be with you on the Bat-Around all off-season, warming our hands by the hot stove. From the GM meetings to the winter meetings to the start of spring training, the Bat-Around has you covered for every trade, signing, and transaction as the Orioles look to revamp and regroup for another postseason run. You can watch the show every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So tune into the Bat-Around every Saturday right here at PressBox.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Visit Harford County. Gear up for the holidays by supporting local with Small Business Saturday on November 25th. Take in the dazzling sights of the season with a Ladue Christmas at Ladue Topiary Gardens. Enjoy holiday lights, sing along to holiday songs, reserve a carriage ride, and sit on Santa's lap in Bel Air's Winter Wonderland, happening every Saturday from November 25th until December 16th. Nothing sparks that holiday joy quite like a festive parade. Head to visitharford.com and click on Events to see the full list of parades and so much more. In Maryland, you're welcome.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
We continue along on the college basketball preview show. It is also brought to you by Project Game Day, which returns this Sunday. Myself, Rita, former Super Bowl champion Femi Ayambadejo will be with you, and our cast of characters, their whole crew, Ken Zales, Andrew Stecca, the whole gang, hanging out with you after Ravens Seahawks. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay. Project Game Day brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. All right, Patrick, last two coaches, UMBC, Towson, your thumbnails on those two teams.
Well, for Towson, I think a lot of it does come down to those newcomers that Pat Skerry mentioned. The Nenda Tart questions there, how well he fits in for a team that he wouldn't have been with for a good chunk of that time. Obviously, he was practicing in the fall and all, but didn't go to Canada with them or anything. So I think those are significant questions, and obviously they have a pretty good non-conference schedule to work with. I didn't even mention UMass coming to town in the return.
It's a nice game, yeah.
Because they played them up in Amherst last year. So I think they're a team that should be top 4, top 5 in the CAA. It's the usual suspects in that league: Hofstra, UNC Wilmington, Charleston, Towson. And I think we'll see Drexel and Delaware both be pretty solid too. I mean, the bottom half of that league is not very good, and I didn't want to dig too deep into it, but I think the CAA went from being like a 16th, 17th, 18th ranked league last year to about 26th, and that's what those additions really did to them. And I think some of those schools are going to help in the long run as they get better and invest more. But for right now, it just makes it even harder for a team from the CAA to be able to create a little separation, maybe even be a viable at-large possibility. I mean, look at Charleston last year. Basically had to win that league title game to be able to get in. So I do think Towson should be pretty good, and Charles Thompson is going to be one of the best players in the CAA this year. With UMBC, there's so much new there, and Jim Ferry did touch on what I thought was going to be a key for them: positionless basketball. You look at their roster, and it's so many guys between 6'3" and 6'8", and so it's a team that I think we probably know less about them than just about anybody around here, just because there isn't that much that feels certain. But that's a team I think picked in the middle of the America East Pac, maybe 5th or 6th. Wouldn't be surprising if they ended up 3rd or 4th or something like that. I do think Vermont probably remains the class of that league for yet another. I mean, it's a year at some point in the last 10 years, basically. So Vermont is the team to beat in the America East. I don't know if UMBC is going to be at that level, but I do think they will improve as the year goes on. and they do have they have some interesting non-conference games. They could win opening night if things break right. They go to a Louisville team.
Yeah, it's not a very good Louisville team.
That lost another exhibition game this year. They lost to Kentucky Wesleyan the other day.
And isn't Kentucky Wesleyan even bad at that level? Like, aren't they even?
I don't know.
I think I saw
that
somewhere.
But that was for that's an opportunity, because last year Louisville was looking shaky going into the regular season, and there were some teams that were able to get them right out of the chute just because they were so wobbly, and it wasn't like great scheduling on the part of Louisville either. I think they played two really good teams in Bellarmine and Wright State immediately. But UMBC has a chance there, and so they also go to Maryland. They also go to Iowa. So there's some interesting opportunities. But as Jim pointed out, they also play all the local teams. They play Loyola on a Sunday at UMBC. They play Towson on a Saturday afternoon, I believe. They play Coppin, midweek game at Coppin, I think it is. And they play Morgan too, I believe. So you see all that, and that's pretty encouraging that those opportunities are going to be there. So I think for UMBC, a team that will get better as the year goes along, but we still have to figure out exactly how all the pieces are going to fit together.
One more national storyline, because we got interrupted by Jim Ferry had checking in when he did. But I brought up that one name that was interesting local was Hunter Dickinson. The other interesting local name, who's with the defending national champions that you had brought up earlier, is Cam Spencer. I get that they lost a lot at UConn, but that was a pretty dominant run that they had during the month of March. Is there a chance there for Cam Spencer to go up and do something pretty special?
I mean, he played really well for Rutgers last season, so I don't see a reason why he can't be a productive player for UConn. I was a little skeptical about how much of an impact he could have for Rutgers last season, and it turned out he was one of their most valuable players. So I'm not going to undersell that guy again. I think that he will have the opportunity to play on obviously a really good UConn team. The interesting thing about UConn is, they probably arrived a year earlier as a national title contender than just about everybody expected. But beyond that, they're in a league where that top half, if you catch teams in the wrong order, basically, where you've got a Villanova team that should be better, that has Justin Moore back, that just got Hakeem Hart from Maryland, got Tyler Burton from Richmond. You've got Marquette, which won the league tournament last year. You've got Creighton, which has 3 starters back from an Elite Eight team and has one of the best big guys in the country in Ryan Kalkbrenner. You have sort of the St. John's wild card. We don't know what that is. They lost an exhibition game too the other day. But you have them in the mix. You've got Providence with some pieces. Any of those teams might have a 4-game losing streak in them in the middle of league play just because of how dicey things are. So, one of the interesting things of seeing these Big East teams populate the top 10, they might be 3 or 4 of the top 10 best teams in the country, but it's also very possible that that the best record in the league is going to be like 14-6 or something like that.
That's interesting. Anything else on the national level that we haven't touched on that you think is an interesting storyline going into the season?
I mean, one team that I'm curious to see, given how last year went for them, is North Carolina. A team that was preseason number 1 and didn't even make the tournament and
fell
just
apart,
fizzled,
and
just did not show really any kind of gumption at all for the most part. And so, Caleb Love's gone, but they still have Armando Bacot. They still have R.J. Davis. And they added some interesting pieces like Cormac Ryan from Notre Dame and Harrison Ingram from Stanford. They are, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be the best team in the country, but they're going to be better. And how much better is a question. Because if they're not much better, there's going to be some people that are really cranky down there with 2 disappointing seasons in a row. That just does not fly.
It's North Carolina we're talking about, right?
Fly. One other team in a similar boat, early in the summer, we were wondering when they were down to about 7 players, is Kentucky going to be any good? And then they managed to add some guys as it goes, And so now there's a lot of people that are bullish on the Wildcats. And that's a program that for the last 3 or 4 years, they're not Kentucky, right? They were a 2 seed and lost to St. Peter's and all that. they were not the most overwhelming team a season ago. They had the pandemic season where they weren't any good at all. And that's, the last 4 years or so at Kentucky have not been up to, in aggregate, Kentucky standards. So, is there rumbling for a change there in some way or another if things get off to a wobbly start? You can count on Kentucky fans to handle things in a very rational manner. So it would not be surprising if that's one of the epicenters of discussion for this season, one way or the other. If this team turns out to be really good and they basically constructed a Final Four contender kind of on the fly in the summer before a season, you're going to look at that and wonder how much is that going to get replicated or attempted to get replicated in the years to come, not just by Kentucky, but by a bunch of teams.
And then new coaches all over the place. But Syracuse, of course, stands out obviously significantly. Georgetown, Notre Dame, biggest coaching change storylines to you coming into the year.
Well, one of the easy ones is whenever Ed Cooley goes back to Providence at the end of January, that's going to be one of the best environments of the season. Maybe one of the more dangerous environments of the season, quite frankly. Well, certainly hostile. Ed Cooley leaving Providence after 12 years to go to Georgetown, an in-league switch. Providence hires Kim English from George Mason after 2
Baltimore
seasons.
zone, yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting matchup in that case. You mentioned Penn State with Micah Shrewsbury. Micah Shrewsbury leaves Penn State for Notre Dame. Penn State got Mike Rhodes and brought Ace Baldwin as point guard, the A-10 player of the year with him. I think Penn State might be a little bit better than anticipated. I think people are kind of looking at them as maybe a 13th place team. It wouldn't shock me to see them a tier up in the Big Ten. And then,
Syracuse, Notre Dame, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Micah Shrewsbury has his work cut out for him. It's going to be a young team, not a lot of continuity year over year from the end of the Mike Brey era. And Syracuse, I mean, it's weird. Like, that's somebody. Jim Boeheim, I'm 43 years old. Jim Boeheim had been the head coach at Syracuse since before I was born. So that's one of those things where it's going to take a little time to get used to it. Maybe more so even more so, I think, than a Duke scenario where Krzyzewski was as much of an institution, or even a Carolina Dean Smith type of thing, or something along those lines.
All right, so I am told that Coach Broadus is here. He's in the parking lot, so we might just need to go find him and see if we can't help him get in here. We are, for those, hi, Glenn Clark here. We're in a complex, a business park.
Office park, business park.
And when we say a suite number, I'm just going to tell you, the buildings are not ordered in a way that it's necessarily logical.
And they're not labeled.
Not well.
Not terribly
at
well.
all. So this can happen sometimes where somebody's trying to figure out exactly where we are, and it ends up creating a little bit of confusion. So hopefully, we're going to be all right. Oh, indeed we are. Look who's here. And if you could check in with our next and see if we can't push that back a couple of minutes. No, it's quite all right. We continue along on our college basketball preview show. Next up on the hot seat, he is the head coach at Morgan State. I'll let him get settled for just a second here. As I know it's last minute, Coach Kevin Broadus is with us in studio. Coach, really appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us for a few minutes. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
A lot to talk about with you guys, and some new pieces. I think a couple of returning pieces. I'm going to start only because he's a local kid with Will Thomas, who had some really big games for you a year ago, but never necessarily found any consistency. Is there a chance there for him to take a step forward and find some consistency this year?
There's a very good chance. It's all on Will.
Coach, can I ask you to pull that microphone a little bit? Yeah.
It's all on Will. It's a good chance he will find his stride and take it to the maximum. It's all on Will. Nothing to do with anyone else and coaches or other players. Will is Will. Will is his, sometimes best critic and sometimes his best enemy, but sometimes his best friend too. So Will's got a chance to be very good this year. He's put in the work, but it's all on Will.
I think the name that kind of stands out the most among the additions, just based on where he's been and what he's done, is Winston Tabbs, who'd been at Boston College previously, but has obviously had his share of knee issues and whatnot. Is he healthy, and how much of an impact can he have if he's ready to go for you?
Right now, Winston Tabbs is very healthy. Knock on wood.
That's what I was going to say. It seems like you were doing a bit of a
special talent. Special talent. I had a couple guys come in and watch him. John Thompson, Mark Turgeon. They was like, wow, he's a high major player, high major offensive player, can really play, knows the game, high IQ, just loves what he brings to the table, and he brings leadership and experience to the table. He's probably one of the first transfers we've had that's come from a high major that I look at and say, okay, I see why he played at the high major. The other ones, you question some of the different, either the skill set, the mentality, or the IQ, or what have you. But Winston Tabbs is the real deal. He's got the whole package, and we're looking for great things with him.
Is it at all like do you when someone's dealt with as many injuries, do you have to work with someone who's at all tentative? That there's any fear of what they're going through?
Well, yes. I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, but he plays with reckless abandon. So, you know what? I think, some people have to have those injuries to get them out the way. And it seems like he's that type person. Like, hopefully he's done with these injuries. But, none of us are doctors. We can't tell, only God knows, So we have no clue what's in front of him. But we have been preserving him so he could, hopefully make it through the whole year.
I know when we talked over the summer, you mentioned Karan Oliver as an X factor, made the comparison to Troy Baxter, which immediately got my attention. And I know you've had the chance to go overseas, play some, got extra practices. Has he lived up to that?
He has. He has. Kyron has been very, very – he's our high energy guy. He brings energy like every single minute of the practice, every single day. I mean, we love this kid, and, being recruited at the high level, went to New Mexico State. He played JUCO the last year, but this kid is a high major athlete, and he loves to play the game. I was just talking to one of the coaches on the phone coming in here. Him and Winston was in the gym as we speak. You love to hear that as a coach. And I just said to her, make sure they don't have class, because, these kids these days, that's they're out. Say, hey, Coach, I got to get these shots up. But they don't just more. Will's been in a lot. This is what you get when you get guys that's serious about their craft. They're in the gym. You don't have to pull them in there. They're in there on their own, and I love it.
Coach Kevin Broadus from Morgan State is in studio with us as they get ready for the start of the season at Arizona on Monday, the home opener next Thursday against Cheney. Coach, all right, so this is the selfish portion of the program. I am obsessed with Last Chance U. Like, I have watched all of the football seasons. I watched all the basketball seasons. So when I saw that Christian was on the roster, I was like, wow, that's cool. Did you ever watch the show? Did you have connections with the staff out at East L.A., or how did Christian end up here?
So I do have connections. I recruited that school before. And plus, we had a kid locally that went to DeMatha, and I'm drawing a blank. His dad, I know very well, Joe Hampton.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who was a big part of the show.
A big part of the show, went there. It piqued my interest. So one of the coaches, Ken Hunter, is a friend of mine, and a couple of other coaches. So I went out. I was recruiting another kid, actually. And I went out a few times. I went out with a friend of mine, Coach Hobbs. He was assistant then at Rutgers. And a couple of my friends, Coach Baggett at Ryder. And we went out to see, kids, different kids. And I was recruiting another kid. So I asked about this kid. I said, God, 7-foot kid. Because you're always looking at height, It's contradictory what we always say. You always want height, but we always say guards win games. So I go out and I see him, and they say, oh, no, that kid's going high major. He committed to, Santa Clara out of high school, if I remember right. Hobbs from Rutgers was out to see him. It was a bunch of schools out there, Oklahoma State. It was a bunch of schools. They told us, you don't waste your time with him. So went on to the next guy, started recruiting, came out a couple times, went to West L.A. to see some kids play. And we were going to take a kid from West L.A. who ended up going somewhere else in our league. So last year, come their tournament time, the coach asked, could I come out and see him again? I was like, no, we're playing, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. So I get a call, says, you still need a big. I said, we always could use a big. You know, who you got? You got some new guys? He says, nah, what about the kids you liked in the beginning, Christian Oliver? I was like, he's available? He says, yeah, he's actually available. Fast forward, he's here now. And then when he came on his visit, his mom grew up in Montgomery County.
Really?
Yeah. So it's, you know, recruiting is a weird science. You know, you like to think you control the narrative and control everything. We really don't. And we've gotten him, and he played really well in Europe this summer. He's a little banged up right now, his ankle, but nothing serious. Tough kid, just got to get him to be more vocal. I love what he brings. He's a skilled big man, really skilled.
That's cool. That's a really cool story.
I know freshman-wise, usually don't rely too much on freshmen, but it sounds as if Trent Edwards, a kid out of Louisville, is somebody that could be able to help you.
Where you hear that from? Where you guys hear that from?
Spies everywhere.
Well, Trent is taking leaps and bounds. Right now, I plan on starting him the first game out at Arizona, get his feet wet real quick. I mean, 6'9", I mean, he's a pogo stick. Like I told him, Trent, I'm not going to run one play for you. But every ball that goes up against the glass, you go get it, and that's your play. And he's been really good at that. He's good on our press. I mean, I'm very happy with his growth from the day he came to campus to where we sit today. Now, I always tease him. I say, you have no clue what you're doing out there. Nothing. You don't know nothing that you're doing out there. But what you're doing is not wrong. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Speaking, you know, it's someone who's coming in, but stability, right? To have a returning starter, and I know Patrick told me before, in the MEAC there's not a lot of returning starters this year, but to have one in Cameron Hobbs, how important has that been for you guys making the adjustment into this season?
You know, I think what's going to be good for Cam is playing with a guard like Winston, because it takes the pressure off him, have to dribble a lot. Cam can really make shots, and Winston can find the open man. And it takes the pressure off of him guarding big guards. So now we have Winston and Kyron, two big guards, 6'3" and 6'5", you know, with a guard like Cam that can make shots. It's going to be really good. Cam played really well in one of our scrimmages. I can't remember which one it was. Just his effort, you know, because it may have been the second one. Yes, it was the second one we scrimmaged, because I didn't even start him. And when he came in the game, you know, just brought the energy, what we were hoping he would bring this year, being his second year there.
Looking at the roster, just kind of sizing it up, it feels like you guys are deeper than you've been, all over the place. I know there's been times where you've been deep in certain spots, but not others. Do you agree with that?
I do, and we're deeper now because we haven't had any injuries, and that's been our biggest Achilles, is the injuries we've had in the previous years. And hopefully this year we don't have the injuries, but you can't. You have to go into it as, okay, you have these guys, but this could happen, you know, and next guy's got to step up. Last year when we lost Malik and Khalil, it just devastated our team. So hopefully we don't have that this year, and we go injury-free, because a lot of times the guys that's injury-free at the end of the year are usually the ones who's playing well.
Coach, if I could, you said something a second ago and I think it jumped out at people. I think everybody knows your relationship with Mark Turgeon, right, from your time together at the University of Maryland. But when you said you had him in and John Thompson, can you take me through, has he been sort of a resource for you now as he's been out of coaching and doing the TV thing a little bit, to try to help and just be, I don't know, a sounding board or something?
Absolutely. Coach Turge has adopted us, if that makes any sense. I mean, he really comes up. You know, I laugh about it to my guys that said, you know, he's been around Larry Brown so long, and Larry Brown did that with him. I watch him. When he comes in the gym, hey, he always asks, can I talk to him about, it's your floor, you know, and he takes the floor like it's his floor. And the thing I say to him all the time, and he always shoots it down, he's too good of a basketball mind not to be coaching at a young age. I mean, Coach Turgeon is a great basketball mind. I mean, he sees things, and I'm like, wow, you think we should, you know, and our coaches say, we've been trying to tell you, but, you know, you got to respect a guy that's been a head coach for 25-plus years. And I respect that he gave me an opportunity to come to Maryland when we left Georgetown. I mean, everything he brings to the table helps not only me, I think it helps our other coaches and our players as well.
That's really interesting, man. Like, is it like a weekly thing? Is it that frequently?
He comes like once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
10,
That's
15 days.
That's significant.
That's
is a lot.
And I mean, the guy is a wealth of knowledge. People forget he coached at Oregon in the NBA. He was assistant when Allen Iverson with the Sixers, Maryland, Texas A&M, Wichita State, Jacksonville State. I mean, the guy's a wealth of knowledge, and I don't think he gets his due that he's owed around here because he's a Midwesterner, but he played, and people forget about this, is Kansas in the Final Four with him and
Danny and the Miracles.
Yeah, he was one of the Miracles.
Absolutely.
So,
Coach, for this team to break through and make a run to a MEAC title this year, what has to go right for your guys?
Injury-free.
That's been a common refrain today, by the way.
The cohesiveness of guys loving to play with each other, sharing the game, sharing the responsibilities on defense. Everything, has to come together at the right time. And the right time is now all the way through to April.
And then we were just chatting with Pat a second ago, and he mentioned that UMBC have kind of entered into like almost a little pact to be playing local games. And I know it's something that you've always wanted to do, but can you talk me through that thought process and what it does for you guys?
Well, it's more so for the fans. It does nothing for me because these guys, a lot of times you're playing against your friends, guys that you've known for 25, 30 years. So we're going to play Towson this year. We play over at Towson. We play UMBC at home this year. We scrimmage another local team that's a good friend of mine, and so I don't.
That could be anybody, but
and then we play Coppin, who Larry was one of my assistants.
Yep.
So I mean, it's good for, I guess, the basketball enthusiasts for the local area. It's a game. And we're going to treat it like it. It's not going to make or break our season when we play these teams.
What's that relationship like now with Larry? Have you? Are you trying to be a sounding board for him while also remembering? Okay, yeah.
No,
yeah.
No, I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. It's, this is the thing I learned when I took over as a head coach. The head coach takes a back step, take a seat back, and let him be him.
Yeah.
I've talked to Larry literally one time since then. I helped him all get out to get the job. I wanted him to get the job. It'd have been criminal if he didn't get the job. But now that he's got it, I'm not going to call him and say, you should do this, you should do that. No, he's been around long enough. He's played at the highest level in the professional leagues. He's coached long enough to be able to cipher through, I'm going to do it this way, that way, and, Now, if he needs, and he wants to call, absolutely. I give him, any advice that was given to me before, so I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to call and reach out and be meddling with his program, no.
I get it. I completely get it. Again, the season gets underway at Arizona on Monday, and then home next Thursday night against Cheney for the first opportunity to get out and see the Bears this season. Coach Kevin Broadus, appreciate it. No, we were, it's a little tricky getting over here. But
No. Coming around 695 with all the construction, much-needed construction. So, you get caught in that traffic. It's, like I tell my guys, got to be early because being on time is being late. And now I got to go do the punishment for being late. So.
Coach, thank you for coming in and spending some time with us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Really
Thanks for having me.
Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's will be next up on the hot seat. It's the college basketball preview show, Glenn Clark Radio.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, November 7th at Guilford Home Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? AJ Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Make sure you tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
All right, back in here as we continue along. The college basketball preview the college basketball preview edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick Stevens is in studio with us. Speaking of college basketball previews, Ryan, would you hold up, or you know what, maybe hand me that print issue of PressBox if you don't mind. Inside this new print issue of PressBox, our own Luke Jackson spoke to players from the D1 men's and women's programs around the state, and you can find that inside this preview, this issue of PressBox, which is available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms or any of the hundreds of locations around the state where you find it. You can also read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Next up on the hot seat this morning, he is the head coach out at Mount St. Mary's. It's always a pleasure to welcome back into the program Coach Dan Engelstad, who is now with us. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, Glenn and Pat, you know, I know you said it's always a pleasure. It always is. I appreciate your time. And, you know, this call usually means that it's the start of hoop season, and we're here. And look forward to getting it going here soon.
Coach, if I could, just is there an update at all on Terrell Ard? Is there? I know you're probably sick of talking about it at this point, but do you know anything more about where you're at with that?
Yeah, I wish I could give you some answers. You know, we're still in a waiting, find out situation. We are hopeful soon. We've been hopeful for the last couple of weeks, but we're just preparing. You know, with the thought that he has the chance to play, and so he's doing a little bit of both right now. He's on scout team, and he's also getting first and second team reps right now. So we're in a wait and find out still. We have not gotten word back from the NCAA.
Dan, wanted to ask a bit about what you guys were able to do last weekend with the ALS research, the Pat Bian game with Bucknell. Just what was that experience like, and just, fill everybody in a little bit on just kind of the background of how that came to pass.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start out by saying it was a special day for myself to see it kind of come together the way that it did. The response from the Bucknell community as well as our community, I know Pat was touched, and at the end of the day, that was the hope, was to raise his spirits. He watched the game. He was the only one that was able to stream it. We gave him our T-Motion password, and we got to FaceTime with him afterwards, and he was just really touched that we did that for him. We wish he could have been here in attendance, but he just had a trach surgery this past week, and a successful one from what I've heard. And, but to see his smile afterwards was big time for both myself and John Griffin. The game came together because Pat was a very close friend. He is a very close friend of mine. He was a teammate of John Griffin's. We wanted to get the game in our building because of the proximity from where Pat lives, and the hopes that he would be there. But the awareness that we brought to the game, the awareness that we brought to ALS was something that I think we achieved. I mean, our video that John and I put out, I think had over 330,000 views. And, I know we had a really good day in our gym, and we fundraised a lot. They were able to sell merchandise, and we're hoping that it kind of transitioned into this Maryland game. And, I know there's talks of us, being able to talk more about that, on Tuesday. But Pat's a special friend. The game was competitive. It was an absolute, wild game. We turned it over 20-plus times. They went 1 for 26 from 3. It wasn't the most beautiful of games, but it was entertaining to the crowd, and we ended up pulling it out in double overtime. But I think Pat would have been really, and I think he was, proud of the effort and the way both teams carried themselves and competed.
I'll take a second here. Beingstrong.com is the website, and on Instagram, just again, at beingstrong is how you can find out more about Pat and this fight against ALS, and encourage you guys to get out and support that. Coach, just, a year ago we talked, and so much of our conversation was about making the adjustment to a new league. And I wonder if there was a point during the course of the season last year and how you guys handled yourselves and were competitive in what most people would say is a jump up in competition. Was there a moment where you said, okay, I'm comfortable that we handled this the way that I wanted to, even if it didn't lead to, a championship, which you guys have gotten so used to using or winning over the years out at Mount St. Mary's?
Yeah, losing is the worst, right? And we did quite a fair share of that in January. And there were some dog days there, and it wasn't because of lack of effort or guys trying. We were in every game. The MAC is a physical, tough, you better bring it every night league, or you're gonna lose, and it's gonna be a 1 or 2 possession game a lot of times, and there's not a lot that separates. We ended up, I thought we had a really good team last year when we were fully healthy, and I think anybody can say that, and we just happened to get healthy at the right time last year, and I thought we were playing about as good as anybody in the MAC down the stretch. I mean, won 5 of our 6 regular season games, and that loss was to Iona, and we ended up winning a game against the other hottest team, which was Canisius, before we had to, go through Iona last year. And I just thought they were a little bit cut above everybody else, and we had them down at our place at halftime. So there was some good momentum, but it's a tough league. It's a physical league. It wasn't anything that we fully, didn't expect coming in. But now our guys, it's not just words, right? They've seen it. We return a lot of seniors that have now been part of that and seen kind of what it takes to come on the other side. So we're hopeful that if we can stay healthy and, make some of the adjustments as a staff and really improve, that, we hopefully can be right there at the end of the year, because it is like all college basketball right now. There's a lot of brand new, there's a lot of guys that transferred. There's a lot of new faces. And so it's a hard league to predict. That's for sure.
One of those seniors is Dakota LaFew, a guy that obviously took a huge jump last year from a little less than 6 points a game to 13 a game. And I imagine that with Jalen Benjamin moving on, that you guys are really going to be counting on him a lot in that backcourt.
Yeah, we need more from Dakota. He did take a jump last year and was kind of a second fiddle offensively behind Jalen Benjamin, and now, he's going to be a marked man. He's going to be the top on everybody's scouting report. He's a guy that we've really challenged to improve every facet of his game, but in particular, finishing around the basket. He's very explosive. He's put on weight, but we need him at the rim this year, and he has that ability, and I think he's really taken that to heart, and we need him to be able to finish in contact, finish in space, and then, continue to hit pull-ups. And he shot the ball really well from three, but he's got to understand that closeout's going to be real this year. And, just making the right basketball play and opening other guys up will, as the game goes on, will open him up even more down the stretch. But we need Dakota. He seems to be ready to roll here and excited to, start his senior campaign.
You mentioned those injuries last season as well, and I know one that really proved costly was losing Joshua Reeves in November. I saw he played in the exhibition. I assume he is healthy. How much of an impact do you see him having now that he's back?
Yeah, it's nice to have Josh back because he is a guy that can really shoot the basketball and stretch the floor. But more than that, he is a guy that can be an inspiration to the team. He's got a voice on our team. He's someone that has really taken on leadership role for us this year. It goes by fast. Josh was a starter for our NEC championship team. And now, in his senior year, we're expecting big things. I think he's probably a sophomore eligibility-wise, but, this is year 4 for Josh. And, we're excited to see, the growth that he's made as a player. I know he's anxious to get back on the court because he only got to play, I think, in a couple games last year. So for him, he's really chomping at the bit to get back out there and compete. And we've seen some really good things from Josh this offseason. And he's looked as explosive as I've seen him in the last couple weeks, and looking forward to seeing him out there and flying around.
Coach Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's, as he mentioned, the season opens Tuesday at Maryland, and then the home opener will be next Saturday against Coppin State. Coach, I should have brought this up when I brought it up at the beginning, but what are you getting? Whenever Terrell Art is able to get on the floor, what do you feel like he's going to bring to your team? Obviously, we know he was a scorer, and he was a very high-level player at Presbyterian, but what will he bring to you guys into the MAC whenever he gets on the floor?
Just great depth. I mean, we like our front court already, and now you throw another guy that can come up with big rebounds in traffic, a grown, mature body. He didn't shoot it great at Presbyterian, but we like his skill set and think he can, do a little bit more than he has shown. But he's just a guy that has a smile on his face every day. He brings awesome energy, so he's great to be around. But, he's somebody as athletically as gifted as we've had. I mean, he's a great finisher, plays extremely hard, and, he's hungry to win. And I think when you see Terrell out there, you're going to see a young man that's, competitive, but also, hungry to help Mount St. Mary's take another step.
The other guy that jumped out among the newcomers, I guess, tell me who the newcomers are that we should be aware of. But Dallas Hobbs, who ironically comes from Dallas, who would have thought, is he someone that has an opportunity to sort of crack through and be a part of this?
Yeah, that's where this team is really unique. We have all these veterans, and then we feel really excited about the freshman class that we brought in. You mentioned Dallas. He's going to be a guy that's going to impact us early, and he's got to be ready to go. He played for Jermaine O'Neal out in Dallas, as you mentioned.
Wow.
So he's got a good basketball pedigree. Dad's a coach and a trainer. Deshane Montgomery's another one from Florida, big-time athlete. I mean, he had a highlight dunk to close out the Bucknell game the other day in regulation. But he's a young man that's got 6'10" wingspan, athletic, played at Hargrave Military School, who we think can be an instant impact guy who's had some success early on in our scrimmages. So, we're looking forward to that blend of some really good youth, and we have really talented young forwards that are figuring it out at this level. And so we like the class we brought in, we like the guys returning, and we hope it equates to a good season. But a lot of it is going to be dependent on how those freshmen develop throughout the year and how they come along, because, for us to hit our ceiling, they're going to have to be impact, and we know they're going to go through the ups and downs that all freshmen do. But our job is to try to get them to grow up in dog years and ready to go come conference time.
You mentioned the front court a little bit ago, and I know Malik Jefferson had been an anchor there for so long for you guys, but J.D. Cordelia is a guy that took a step forward last year and was really efficient offensively in stretches. Is he basically going to be one of your main guys in that front court, and how much are you counting on him?
Yeah, no, JD's got the opportunity here to really make a name for himself. He's got all the skills and talent. It's just we got to keep that motor on all the time. And George Tinsley is kind of that hybrid 4-3 that, another guy, that everyday guy, works his butt off, shot the ball really well this summer. We're going to need him to stretch the floor for us this year from that 4 spot. And then we have real great depth with Dola and Franta, guys that have, Franta's played a ton of basketball here. And, Dola, had his kind of came on late last year for us and need him to carry that momentum. So we like our front court. Some of the guys haven't had the opportunities yet that I think they'll be able to show that they've made some marked improvements. But, we've got guys that have produced as well.
All right, what is it going to take to make a jump up in the quality of the league is nuts, right? Like you mentioned Iona, and now they lose a heck of a coach, but they bring in obviously a heck of a coach in order to replace him. What does it take to take that next step and be ready to compete a little bit more towards the top of the MAC this season?
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal, right? We're trying to win this thing now. And I that's our message to our guys. Time is now. And I think we have as good a chance as any in the league just because it's so unknown. I mean, you talk about even the Ionas. I mean, they returned one player that was on the roster from before. So great coaching, and I have a lot of respect for the coaches in this league, but it's hard to predict because there are not a lot of returning all-league guys, right? Ryder got picked at the top of the league because they return more than anybody else. But because of that unknown, it just leads to a wide-open conference. And, we want to go seize our opportunity now, and we believe in our group and believe in our guys and know that, the difference between 1 and 11 wasn't that much last year. And because of college basketball right now, the parity's there, and like what is each team going to do, and how do you capture those those couple possession games? Like, are you able to come up with the big rebounds? Are you able to execute, not turn it over? And I think we found a little bit of a recipe late last year, and we hope that we can, our guys can drive this team and lead this team and take another step.
He is Coach Dan Engelstad. Again, the season gets underway Tuesday night against Maryland, and then, as I mentioned, at home against Coppin next Saturday. Coach, looking forward to seeing you guys throughout the course of the season. We'll be in touch. Appreciate you spending the time with us as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn and Pat. Always good, man.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Dan Engelstad out at Mount St. Mary's. Appreciate him hopping on with us and spending a minute. Patrick Stevens, your thumbnails on the last two coaches that we chatted with, Morgan State and Mount St. Mary's.
Morgan State, I think, is going to be impressively deep. We sort of alluded to it. I know I mentioned it to you before we got on the air. There are, of the 40 potential starters who could have been returning in the MEAC, 8 teams, 5 starters per, there are only 12. And 5 of them are at Delaware State. So it is an entirely new league. And in a place like Morgan State, which it does bring back Will Thomas, it does bring back Cameron Hobbs, they actually have, relatively speaking, a fair bit back compared to some of these teams. If Winston Tabbs is good, this is a guy that was averaging 12, 13 points a game at Boston College his freshman year when he got hurt, and he's had an assortment of injuries ever since. He played at East Carolina last year and was never really on track or anything. If he's healthy, he will be one of the best players in the MEAC. The big question there is
can he stay healthy?
Can he stay healthy? So I think that's one of the keys there. I think that they've got some depth all over the place, and I really like what they've got there. The front court. I don't think we even mentioned Miles Thompson, who averaged almost 12 a game at St. Francis, PA, a couple years ago. In the front court as a 4-man. So they have some guys. Can they achieve some sort of consistency, and can they stay healthy? Mount St. Mary's, a lot of new faces there. I mean, they do have some continuity. We mentioned Josh Reeves. We mentioned Dakota LeFew, J.D. Cordelia. There are guys that, took steps. LeFew and Cordelia in particular took pretty significant steps last year. Can they take another one? And can they get some help from these many newcomers that they have scattered throughout the roster? Looking at that, how much are you going to take away from a single exhibition game? Bucknell is a a rebuilding Patriot League team. New coach there, a roster that probably has a little bit of work to do, and so I don't know if there's much to take from that other than you still keep a team to 54 points in regulation. That's pretty good. Like you would actually expect at this time of year for the defense to not be as far ahead. You're right. Like you're probably not as quite dialed in. So I think I tend to agree with Dan Engelstad that they could find themselves
It's funny you brought up the stat about the MEAC, and I told you that I saw a stat that of the 15 all-conference players a year ago, only one is back this season in the MAC.
He was right. Iona has exactly one player back this year. So, you look at the other teams that
and I apologize. Remind me the name of the coach from
Tobin Anderson.
Thank you. Yes.
From Fairleigh Dickinson took over for Rick Pitino. Fairfield had a coaching change like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So when you start looking through, like there are some starters back in that league, but there's not a ton of them, and there's certainly not a lot of the higher end guys that are back in the Metro Atlantic. So I do think that that's a little bit of a jump ball. I would agree that Ryder because of who they have back, and Iona because they just have been good year after year, even amid a few different coaches, are probably the teams to beat. But that doesn't mean that there's not room for somebody who just plays really well, and you look up at the end of the day and they're 13-7, and it's like, and that league tournament has had a habit of being kind of chaotic over the years. So if you can, especially if you can avoid being in the 8-9 game and you don't have to deal with a regular season champion, not that somebody hasn't, like Iona won one as an 8 or a 9 seed a couple years ago. I think it was the COVID season and it snarled.
But then they lost, right? Because St. Peter's won.
That was the
following year.
That was the following year. And so, St. Peter's was a little further down the pecking order that season. So, I would say that they have a chance, but there's obviously a number of things that have to come together. I would expect them to be better. I don't know how much better, but if I'm Mount St. Mary's, I think finishing 500 overall and finishing 500 in the league, those are benchmarks that you can take in year 2 as you're continuing to build this thing up. And so I'm not saying they'll be satisfied with that, but that would constitute progress for a team that last year I believe was 13-20 overall, 8-12 in the league. But they did, he said, they won 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 there at the end.
I think, and I know he won't want to say it, but I would think that going 8-12 after making a jump up.
And I would tell you this too:
you reference those teams that came into the CAA that weren't ready. 8-12 says you're basically ready, right?
And not just that, but they lost Josh Reeves early in the
right.
season. So by the time Thanksgiving rolled around, they already didn't have a complete team. Malik Jefferson missed a bunch of time last season, and so they were playing shorthanded. I can tell you, the great thing about the Metro Atlantic, and you can remember this from the Loyola time. When Loyola was in the league, they play Friday, Sunday. You can see them a ton.
It's the best.
And so I had the chance to see Mount a lot more last year than I had in their NEC days. And you could see them, and some of it was getting healthy, and some of it was guys like LeFew and Cordelia simply getting better. But the progress that they made from the team they were in December to the team they were at the end. I mean, I was there when they lost the home game to Iona. They played really well for about 30 or 25, maybe close to 30 minutes, and then Iona just had dudes.
Right.
I mean, they had dudes that didn't belong in that league. Having seen most of the teams in that league, that was right at the end of the season. It's like, you guys aren't like the other teams. Like, not a surprise, obviously, but they held up reasonably well against that team before Iona pulled away late. So. I was encouraged by what I saw from them with the way that they played down the stretch. Again, some of it was having more dudes, but some of it was, you could have felt bad for yourself and could have felt beat up having lost as many games as they had, and they still had a lot of fight to them at the end of the season, and I think that they have a chance. Like I said, a mid-pack finish I think this year would constitute progress for them.
All right, I know you got to go in a minute. Hang tight for me for 1 second. Ryan, can you tell everybody about what's happening at the live casino and hotel? I don't know if your microphone was turned back on, but if it is.
Check.
Very good, very good. Ryan Schell has been – this is a very difficult show producing-wise, and Ryan's in here filling in, and I'm like, hey, by the way, this is what I'm throwing on you. Appreciate all your hard work today. What's going on at Live Casino?
Hey, you
and
bet.
Hotel?
Was luck not on your side in your recent bet at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland? Well, get ready to turn those losses into winning opportunities with the Second Chance to Win promotion. Between now and January 4th, 2024, all Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to get to enter their losing slips into the Second Chance to Win drum, and 2 nights a week, 20 winners will be chosen. Prizes range from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social ultimate happy hour, and cash and free play prizes up to $500. Drawings will be held every Thursday and Monday. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Thank you, Ryan. Patrick, you want to do a quick round of the game? Do you want to just kick off the season with the?
Sure.
I got a World Series theme version
Okay.
if you're up for it.
Okay,
Now,
let's.
I admit, again, the game is can Patrick Stevens name the teams that this particular player has played for. It's sort of what kind of I think we birthed the
Immaculate
grid, frankly. I think that we birthed it with this game.
We need the residuals from
Yeah,
that.
right.
I've got today's up right now. I filled in 3 of them.
And they're all sub 0.2%.
Well,
Yeah.
how about these names? Dan Schatzeder, Mike Myers, and Ed Vosberg.
See, every time I think to myself, this name is too difficult. I can't put this on the game for Patrick Stevens. Then I see that those are the names that he's playing with on the grid, and I say, nope, we can try it. Like, for example, I think this one's difficult, but we happen to know he was the general manager of the now World Series champion Texas Rangers. He is the pitcher, Chris Young.
Pitcher Chris Young. How many teams for Chris
5
Young?
teams.
5 teams for Chris Young.
Only an All-Star once, did win a World Series as a player once as well, and was also once the AL Comeback Player of the Year.
Okay, AL Comeback Player of the Year, was an All-Star once. You know, it's funny because
I'm terrified too that you're going to confuse
Just
it with the outfielder
with
Chris
the,
Young.
with
Yeah.
the outfielder Chris Young, which is very possible.
Admittedly, the 4-team one will be much easier than this.
Okay. Let's see. Chris Young, back then, again, this is. Do I remember him in San Diego?
You sure do.
Okay.
That's the longest stint of his career,
Okay,
5 seasons.
Good. Then I'm not going to swing and miss on this.
Yeah.
Good. Do I remember? Do I remember him with the Phillies very briefly?
Not with the Phillies.
I
no.
bet I thought he was with them in some capacity. or
I will
another.
double check on that.
No, I'm not saying
Right,
that
that he
played
might not
for
have
them.
ever made the. He was drafted by.
Like more at the end. It might have been that he was in like their
Oh, came back for like a spring training or
a
something.
spring training, or he might have been in their front office for a second.
He was drafted by the Pirates.
Yeah, I don't have Chris Young with the Phillies, but
He was a Ranger, right?
he was, of course, a Ranger.
He was a Ranger.
Yes. That's
so
where he made his major league debut. With the Rangers. Yes.
Those were the 2 teams that I distinctly remember Chris Young with. And honestly,
Now you don't have, in fairness, you don't have the team where he won the World Series.
where he won the World Series.
Yes.
His World Series title, was he in Boston for?
Not in Boston.
One?
It is at the end of his career in 2000. Well, if I give you the year,
if you gave me
right.
if you gave me the year, it tips
Yeah.
off. Was he in St. Louis at the end? or
Not
San
St. Louis.
Francisco?
No, it was okay.
Was he
So
in Kansas City? That's where
that
it
was the one.
Okay.
Yep, Kansas City is where he won the World Series at the end of his career. The other stints, he was comeback player of the year with the Mariners in 2014, and he spent 2 seasons with the Mets as well. 2 seasons with the Mets. So we'll let you clean it up nicely as also a World Series winner. Maybe not the nicest guy in the world, but now 4 teams for Aroldis Chapman.
Aroldis Chapman.
Sorry, 5 teams.
5
Apologies.
Teams, 5
5
teams.
teams.
Yes, because
Yes.
he padded this now.
Yes.
So Aroldis Chapman with the Reds, Yankees, Cubs, Royals, and Rangers.
There you go. That's the 5 teams for Aroldis Chapman. All right, sir. What's your schedule look like?
Well, we're doing this again. Well, we're talking again.
We'll be
Tuesday.
We'll be chatting on Tuesday.
So
yep.
we can only.
Oh,
we'll,
right.
We'll limit it.
So there's no local game on Monday.
I'll be over at George Mason for
Okay.
Tony Skinn's debut as the head coach, the guy who played on the 2006 Final Four team. They're taking on Monmouth, but the other games locally that night, I'm trying to think of who all is playing. I mean, Loyola's on the road against Florida. Let this be like the cleanup for who all these teams are playing on opening night, right? Coppin State is down at Virginia Tech that night. UMBC is at Loyola, or at Louisville. Morgan State is out at Arizona. Towson is at Colorado. Navy opens up its season at Campbell next Monday night before they play in the Veterans Classic back at home. And then Mount St. Mary's opens against Maryland next Tuesday. So that kind of covers the gamut locally as to who all is playing. There weren't too many options even factoring in the DC teams. GW's home against Stone Hill.
Yeah.
She's a D1 team. Howard will presumably raise its MEAC champion banner or banners because they put up regular season and tournament banners. They have Hampton next Monday night.
Ryan, you didn't prepare a tidbit, did you? Oh, you did? Okay. All right, very good. I'll let you do yours. Pat, you got to run?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, very good. We're going to just wrap up the show then. Tidbit of the day is brought to you today by Superbook Sports. Again, use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook, and you will receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose, with Superbook Sports. Again, the code GlennClark23. All right, Ryan, what you got?
All right, my tidbit is obviously I hate that it's based.
I don't know, Ryan. We got to figure out what's going on with the camera because hopefully you don't have anything up on your phone that anybody wants to see.
I'll put it
it's
off.
All right.
I'll put it off the side. I hate that my tidbit is baseball related, even though this was a basketball related show. But obviously, with the Texas Rangers winning the World Series last night, Bruce Bochy becomes the 5th manager to win World Series with two different franchises. Can either of you name the other 4?
The other 4 managers to win World Series titles with multiple teams is the question. Well, Tony La Russa did it with Oakland,
correct,
and with St. Louis.
Correct.
That's certainly one of them.
Do you know the years, Patrick?
He won his in Oakland in '89.
Correct.
And he won in 06 and 11.
Very
was
good.
It for St. Louis?
Very good.
Gonna stay out of the way on this one. Just gonna.
Sparky Anderson.
Very good.
Won the 75 and 76 World Series with the Reds.
Very
and
good.
Also won the 84 World Series with the Tigers.
Very good.
So you said there's
2 more.
2 more.
And these are kind of like
these are old timey,
yes,
aren't they?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and say I think he did this. Was Bucky Harris
yes.
with the 1924 Washington Nationals and the 1947 Yankees? Is that it?
What in the ever-loving
Very good, Patrick.
F?
We need to bring him back for the baseball preview show.
What in the world is that? Bucky Harris, the 1920s. And he just says it so casually, like, well, I believe it was the 1927.
You're not a big fan of Bucky
Why
Harris,
don't you
Glenn?
come play trivia with us on Monday nights, Patrick?
Well, why don't you invite me?
I would. Oh, it's an open invite. Well, now we're in the basketball
You never
season.
invited me before.
I promise you, it's an open invite to come
they
play
don't have
trivia.
MEAC Mondays every night.
That's
every
true.
Monday.
All right. Anytime you're available on a Monday. Well, we play up here. We play in Timonium.
In Timonium?
Yeah.
I mean, just let me know.
All right. I would love to have you come play trivia. Although I'd be emasculated at that point because I would no longer be the sports guy on the team.
Well,
I would have to have other.
You would be bringing me in to do things like naming like
old
presidential.
I could
type
use.
of stuff.
Yep, I absolutely could use that too.
So one more guy that won World Series with multiple franchises.
Would you like the teams?
I'll take one team.
The Cincinnati Reds in 1940.
Oh, that is Hutchinson? No, it's not Fred Hutchinson. It's gosh. So 40 with was that
Would you like the other team?
Sure, why not?
The 1925 Pittsburgh Pirates.
McKechnie.
Yep.
Bill McKechnie, that's it.
Sure. And what about, do you know who the other 3 guys are that have won the World Series MVP twice?
That would be Reggie Jackson,
Yes.
right? Kirk Gibson won it twice, was it? Was that it?
I don't think he won twice. No. Hang on a second. 2-time World Series MVP. No.
I thought I saw that on the graphic last night that it was whatever. I could be wrong on that. That's right. He wouldn't have been the MVP. He was an MVP who won 2 different worlds.
He was a 2-time World Series champion who also won MVP.
Yes, that's what that was. So no, I'm
He was actually never World Series MVP.
He wasn't in '84.
No.
I don't know who.
He was ALCS MVP.
Maybe
in
Jack
84.
Morris was the MVP in '84.
Yeah.
That sounds about right for the MVP or for the World Series anyway. Who are the other ones?
The other 2 are Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson.
Okay.
Are the other 2 to have been World Series
And they
MVP
probably
twice.
did that in a span of about 5 years between the 2 of them.
Probably did, yes. No doubt about it. Very nicely done. All right. Good job. Thank you, Ryan. Tubular brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Of course, Titans-Steelers opens up NFL Week 9 at 8:15. Will Levis starting for the Titans. Is Kenny Pickett now going for the Steelers? Is that the word? Kenny Pickett will start for the Steelers on Prime Video. Some college football tonight. TCU Texas Tech at 7 on FS1. Wake Forest and Duke at 7:30 on ESPN. South Alabama and Troy, 7:30 on ESPN2. Capitals at home against the Islanders at 7 on Monumental. Everything else, you can go to glennclarkradio.com and find it there. All right. Patrick Stevens, thank you so much, sir. It's always good to do this.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to make sure we thank the coaches that were able to join us today. Pat Skerry from Towson, Tavaras Hardy from Loyola, Jim Ferry from UMBC, Kevin Broadus from Morgan State, Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's. We'll get all those up in the greatest hits section of the archives tab. And then I think we're going to catch up tomorrow with Larry Stewart from Coppin, and we'll make sure that we get Ed DeCellis from Navy on as well ahead of the Veterans Classic next weekend. So those guys will join us too. Busy day, however, on the program tomorrow. Michael Pierce of the Baltimore Ravens will check in with us. We will preview the Seahawks. Former quarterback Brock Heward, of course, now a talk show host out on 710 in Seattle. He's also doing Maryland-Penn State on Saturday, so we'll, I guess, talk to him about that, although there ain't much to talk about there. And Bo Smolka, Press Box Ravens beat right over.
Did you see the line dropped?
I saw that. Like 8.5. I don't get it at all, but whatever. All right. Ryan Chell, thanks to you at RexSpexRyan on Twitter. Patrick, of course, at Discourse, D1S Course. Is there anything else we should be plugging? I
want to go ahead and plug the Blue Ribbon Yearbook, available at blueribbonyearbook.com. I had a nice, hefty contribution.
I heard you had a big chunk of this year's yearbook.
Big chunk of that. So previews of more than 350 Division I teams. So this is the time of year for me to do a little bit of plugging on.
Very good. Very good. All right. It's been a fun show. Hey, don't forget, Stan and Ross and Rick Dempsey all got together this week. And if you missed that show, facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline in order to check it out. All right. That'll do it for this today. We'll see you tomorrow. Normal time again tomorrow, back to 10 a.m. This has been the college basketball preview version of Glenn Clark Radio.